witches. And what they do is they make that jewelry, they cast spells over that thing, and they ask for those demonic entities to actually go into that piece of jewelry. So you take that piece of jewelry from the store and you put it around your neck, or you take it home and you put it on your wall or wherever. Guess what else you just brought into your home with you? Okay, so an enchant or a charmer. Then he says, or a consulter with familiar spirits. Well, familiar spirits are the demons that are around you 24/7. You see, we know that there are angels of the Lord, and we know that they're around us all the time, but we don't see them. Some people have the blessing to be able to see them, called discerning of spirits, the gift of discerning of spirits. But most of the time we don't see them. However, we know they're there. We can feel their presence. There's been reports after reports of people being saved by angels. Someone being drowned, and a hand will grab a hold, an unseen hand will grab a hold and pull that person up. Or the steering wheel will go out of control, and something will grab the steering wheel and bring it back onto the road and stop the car, saving that person's life. That's an angel. That's an angel of the Lord, ministering angel. Demons are also disembodied spirits, fallen angels, and they also operate in our physical realm. So what they do is they begin to listen to each and everything that we say, and they watch the things that we do. And these are the kind of spirits that you go to a seance when you're trying to contact Uncle Fred, who's been dead for 30 years. You want to find out where the money is, because he had an inheritance, and you want to find out what happened to it. And you go to a seance, which is where they sit around in a table and all hold hands, and the person acts as a medium, a spirit guide, and their eyes roll up in the back of their heads, they go into a trance, and all of a sudden the voice of Uncle Fred, who's been dead for 30 years, starts speaking through this person and tells you where the money is. And so you go home and you open up the pantry or the cupboard, and you look behind the glasses where the voice told you to go, and sure enough there's the loose brick, and you open up that loose brick and you might find $500 to $1,000 maybe stored behind there. Well, the spirit knew that it was there. And that is what communicated to that medium what to tell you. And so guess what? Now you're going to be going back to that medium over and over and over again, because you want to find out what else Uncle Fred might have left behind. And then he says, or a wizard. What is Harry Potter? A wizard. A wizard is traditionally, exclusively, and primarily a male practitioner of black magic. That is a wizard. They use spells, curses, hexes, vexes, everything, potions, all of that. Or a necromancer. Necromancer is one who summons back spirits of the dead for divination purposes. They seem to believe that if you're dead, you know about the past, present, and future, and so therefore you have a vast knowledge of things. Deuteronomy 18:12 says, for all, not some, but all that do these things are an abomination unto the Lord. And because of these abominations, the Lord thy God doth drive them out from before thee. Thou shalt be perfect with the Lord thy God. Deuteronomy 18:14 says, for these nations which thou shalt possess hearkened unto observers of times and unto diviners, but as for thee, the Lord thy God hath not suffered thee to do so. Brothers and sisters, I'm telling you, God has not called us to condone witchcraft in our land. He has not called us to condone witchcraft in the home, or in the school system, or in the very church itself. But yet, we have done that. Exodus 22:18, you don't have to turn there, says, thou shalt not suffer a witch to live. Now, in exclusive terms, you know, in the Wizard of Oz, you have a good witch, you have a bad witch. In Lord of the Rings, you have a good wizard and a bad wizard. In Harry Potter, you have good witches and wizards, and you have bad witches and wizards. In God's eyes, the only good witch is a dead witch. That's what the Lord says. That's what His Word says. Thank God we're not living in the old times under the old law. We'd be stoning people right and left. I think we're still supposed to stone them, but I think it's with kindness and with love. 1 Timothy 4:1 says, now the Spirit speaketh expressly that in the latter times, are we in the latter times? Yes. Absolutely. Some shall depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of devils, speaking lies and hypocrisy, having their conscience seared with a hot iron. Well, these are the things that we have let in. Doctrines of devils, and we've let seducing spirits actually do that. They've seduced us, and they are seducing our children. You see, everybody now is all worried about 9/11 and the, you know, the bioterrorism and all this, and I don't say that we shouldn't be concerned about those things. We definitely need to be concerned about those things. But how the devil works is this. He will get you to focus on one thing and look on that one thing only, and while you're focusing on that, he'll come through the back door with something even more evil and bigger. That's the way he works. So, I'm going to start out tonight by quoting from a Time magazine article, and this is the September 20th, 1999 issue. And the article was entitled Wild About Harry. Now, need to explain that this actually started over in Britain by a British authoress named Joanne Kathleen Rowling. She states that she is not a writer. She never meant to be. She wrote a short story on rabbits, and she sold it to Bloomsbury Publishing Company. And that's the children's publishing company over in the UK. And it didn't go very far. It went on the market, and a few people bought it, but it really didn't get really anywhere near popular. And so she decided that she wasn't going to write again. In 1997, she began to get different messages. And those messages came to her while she was on a 5-hour train delay on a trip from Manchester to London, England. And during that 5 hours, she said the idea of Harry Potter came to her. And after that 5 hours, when she finally reached her destination, she says that not only were all the Harry Potter characters already fully formed, and not only was all the storyline and the plot already fully there in her mind for the first book, but it was also for the other 6. No author will tell you that they've ever received that kind of inspiration before. What she's telling you is that within 5 hours, and she says that it just kind of popped into her head. So what she's telling you is that whatever popped this stuff into her head, popped in 5 long books, and then she says that she got the idea from those 5 books, and she put the last 2 books together in 5 hours. That's just virtually impossible. I mean, your mind doesn't work that quick. And you will see a lot of statements that she makes, you will see tonight that she contradicts herself, and that what she says about the way that these things came to her is not quite normal. There's something else behind it. Now, how many know that Satan can't read your mind, but he can sure pop things into your head? Okay, that's where you get the idea about going and sinning, because those thoughts start coming in your head. They start flooding in your head. You don't even have to think about it. They're just all of a sudden there. Well, guess who's putting them there? So this article, entitled Wild About Harry, the article starts off by saying, the exploits of a young wizard have enchanted kids and adults alike, and brought a new kind of magic to children's literature. Then it goes on to say, first of all, for the uninitiated, here are 3 surefire signs that you are a muggle. Now, I hope we have some muggles in the audience tonight. But let's see, let's take the test and find out how many we have. The first surefire way to find out if or not you are a muggle is that you see a boy or a girl in one of your local malls, and they're walking around, a young boy or girl, they're walking around the mall, and as you begin to notice, they have something on their forehead. And as you get closer, it is a purple lightning bolt, either tattooed or stamped on or drawn on or painted on their forehead. That's one of the surefire signs. The second way to find out if for sure that you are a muggle or not is that you think that books or reading has taken the place of electronics. See, that just doesn't happen. In these days of all these video games and things that all of our children want to get a hold of and play with, and they're asking for books, there's something wrong here. You know, I remember last Christmas, Harry Potter was #1 on the Christmas list. Rather than getting something to play with, the children were asking for books to read. There's something wrong with that picture. I mean, you think about it. And the last surefire way to find out whether or not you're a muggle or not is you don't know what a muggle is. So, for those of you who have been off the earth for about the last 4 years, or have been hiding your head in the sand saying it's just fantasy, I don't need to be concerned about it, let me tell you briefly the story of Harry Potter. Harry Potter is a story of a young boy who is orphaned as he is a baby. And he's orphaned because he's told that his parents were killed in a car accident. And he is taken by witches and wizards and placed on the doorstep of his only surviving family, and they are called the Dursleys. And the Dursleys are like the wicked stepsisters in Cinderella. They make him live in a small compartment underneath the staircase, and every dirty job in the house that they don't want to do, they give it to Harry. And Harry is treated like a literal nobody. In fact, they tell him over and over again, you should be blessed, you should feel lucky that you have a roof over your head, and you should just be thanking us that we took you in and gave you a place to live, even though we treat you like dirt. And so Harry is a nobody. He's told he's never going to amount to anything. And Harry begins to believe that until the age of 11. When he reaches the age of 11 years, something wonderful happens. A giant named Hagrid comes to the door and delivers an invitation to Harry. That invitation says that he has been accepted and invited to join Hogwarts School of Wizardry and Witchcraft. And the giant begins to let Harry in on some secrets, like the secret that Harry's parents were not killed in a car crash, that they were actually killed and destroyed by an evil wizard named Lord Voldemort. And Lord Voldemort is a very powerful evil wizard and knew that Harry was destined to become a powerful wizard himself and did not want any competition. And so the only way to deal with that is you destroy your competitor. So he went to the house, the Potter house, and he put a curse on them. And he destroyed the parents with the curse, and he tried to destroy the baby Harry, but he didn't get the job done. However, from that curse, Harry received his trademark, and that is a purple lightning bolt scar in the middle of his forehead. And that becomes Harry's mark. And from that mark, he gains his psychic powers. And he also gains the uncanny ability to communicate with serpents. He can communicate with serpents, and the serpents communicate back to him. However, there is one other person that can do that, and that's Lord Voldemort. And so Harry discovers that he is told that he is very important in the magic world. And in the magic world, everybody knows Harry there. And Harry can't understand that because he's never been there. But yet he's told that when you go there, everybody will know your name, everybody will know who you are, and you are one of the elite. You are very special, Harry. In fact, you will be embraced by everybody when you get there. And so Harry can't wait now to go there. And Hagrid tells Harry that there are two kinds of people in the world. There are the witches and the wizards, and those are the elite. Those are the people who have magic powers, and they use those powers, and they know how to use those powers for good or evil. And then, on the other hand, there are people called muggles. And muggles are people who have no magic powers, who have no special abilities, who are looked upon as being weak and losers. They're the lowest thing on the form of the earth. Now, guess what that makes Christians look like? Muggles. And the media is now beginning to use that terminology over and over again. Just the other night on CBS News, I heard one of the news commentators start talking, and he said, well, this would be easy for any muggle to understand. Now, why is it important to learn Harry Potter? Because if you try to minister to a child or someone who is caught up in Harry Potter, and they start talking the lingo in there, the words, and you start looking at them like you have no idea what they're talking about, they will know that you don't know what you're talking about, and they will turn you off in a red-hot minute. You won't be able to get through to them. It's much the same way when you get into the Pokemon, how you have to really understand what it is and then sit down with them and minister to them about it. But you need to know what it is that they are concerned with and what it is that they are reading. And when you know that terminology, then you can begin to understand the ideas that they are beginning to portray to your child through these books. Guess what that makes mom and dad? Weak and losers. People without any powers. See, if you don't have magic, you can't fly, you can't wave your hand and cast spells, they don't have anything to do. They know that there are people who can do that. And so what they do is they begin to associate with the characters, is to begin to associate with Harry Potter, and they want to be just like him. So, praise God, now you found out tonight you're a muggle. You can be a muggle for the Lord. There is a Pied Piper who is playing different music, and he is luring our children away from the kind of morals, standards, and values that we want to teach them in the home and in the school and in church, and directing them toward the darker things, the things of the occult. And his name is Harry Potter. Now, Harry goes and he learns how to ride on broomsticks. He learns how to cast spells. He learns how to mix potions. He learns how to perform curses. And he learns how to play the wonderful game of Quidditch. Quidditch is a game played on flying broomsticks. It's much like polo or soccer. And it's a fast-paced game. And he learns all those exciting things. And he also learns the ancient art of blood drinking. Oh, you didn't know that was in there? Oh, that's just part of it. You see, the child doesn't get that either, doesn't begin to see those things. You know, a lot of children don't see anything wrong with the Harry Potter books either, because they are told by people that they are listening to that it's just fantasy. It's okay. It's okay to read. I've even had people ask me, then you're saying that people should not go and see Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone movie. And I'm not saying that at all. I will say this, I don't think you should go see the movie or read the book unless the Spirit of God has directed you to do so for a particular purpose. I do encourage all ministers, I do encourage especially all youth leaders, all youth ministers, to go see Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. Why? Because you need to know how the enemy works. You can't walk up and tell a child when they ask you, Mom, can I go see the movie? And you say no, and they say, well, why? And you say, well, it's just bad. That's not good enough. Children are curious creatures, and they want to know. They want to know everything. So you're going to have to sit down with them and explain to them what is in the movie, what is in the books that make them objectionable, and what makes them objectionable not only to you, but makes them objectionable to the Lord. So let's look at a couple of examples. Now, I'm not going to read their last name. That's not really important, but these are school children when they were asked what they thought about the Harry Potter books. And just listen to some of the comments. Here's Gloria. She's age 10, And she states, I was eager to get to Hogwarts first because I liked what they learned there, and I want to be a witch. And then there's Harry. That's kind of ironic. Age 7 said, I like the third book because here Harry meets his godfather and Professor Lupin, a really cool guy, a shapeshifter who turns into a werewolf. Now in the occult arts, there is a practice called shapeshifting. In the darker arts, they call it lycanthropy. And it is the ancient practice of being able to turn yourself from human form to animal form and then back to human form again, much as in the werewolf. In fact, one of Harry's stronger professors, a Professor McGonagall, a woman, constantly changes herself from female to cat and then back to female again. So she is a shapeshifter. To date, there are 110 million Harry Potter books in print worldwide. They are published in 200 countries in over 47 different languages. This is the widest promoted children's book ever. And if you look at some of the books that are out there, some of the Harry Potter books, they're thick. They're huge. I mean, I remember when I was a child, even Mother Goose books, weren't that big. The largest book to print is 734 pages. And you know what? A child will read that, and then they'll go back and they'll read it again. Then again, and again, and again. Remember how an enchantment works? Over and over and over again until it becomes a teaching or becomes a belief. So you can see where a lot of our children are starting to really get into the Harry Potter series and why it's got them so well hooked. Now, to begin with, I need to show you just a few symbols, and we're going to concentrate on the symbols that you're going to see in Harry Potter. And these are occult symbols. Many, many times when the occult, people that are in the occult or people in witchcraft, Satanism, Druidism do something, they are not afraid to show you what they're doing. In fact, they're very proud of it. Remember that Satan fell because of pride. They are prideful, and they like to flaunt what it is they're doing. And many times, as I stated earlier, they will put codes on the things, the articles that they have produced, so that another practitioner can look at that particular code and know that the real thing is in there. So let's take a look at just a few of the symbols. We're going to concentrate tonight just on the symbols that are prevalent with Harry Potter. Here's the first symbol, and it's called the pentagram. It is the universal symbol of all witchcraft. It's a 5-pointed star, and as you see, the lines are intersecting, and then there is a circle drawn around that. Now you see that is different from a picture of a star like in the night sky, or the star on the Dallas Cowboys helmet, or the stars on the flag, or stars. There are stars and there's a pentagram. This is the pentagram. The lines are intersecting. And the witch will draw this on the floor, or wear this as a pendant around their neck, and they do this because they wear it as protection. And what they do is they will step inside of that circle and seal it from the inside, like candles at each point of that star, and then they say their incantations, their chants, and they summon what they say are their spirit guides on the outside of that circle, and those things begin to take form on the outside of that circle. And they say that as long as you're inside that circle, you're protected. How many know that demon spirits do not need you to draw a circle on the floor if they really wanted to get to you? Okay? And you start looking at this stuff, and we used to do the same thing in Satanism, except we would invert the star and turn it around with the 2 points up. And after I got out of that stuff, I looked at that and I said, it never dawned on me, if these things that we are summoning, like demons and spirit guides and all these universe spirits, if they are there to help us, why do we need protection from them? You start thinking about those things. I mean, if they're to help, why do I need to be protected? You get dumb when you're in that stuff. Here's the next one. It too is a witchcraft symbol. It's the crescent moon and the star. And in witchcraft, there have many different deities, and they say that Lucifer is just one of the lesser gods, just little g, okay? And they say that the greatest god is a female god, and she is a goddess, and her name is Diana, goddess of the moon, and this is her symbol. And in a witchcraft coven, if a woman is a high priestess of that coven, they will wear that symbol around their neck as in a pendant, or they could even wear it as a pin on their robe, and it will have like 1, 2, 3, or 4 stars on a chain hanging down off of that, and that symbolizes their particular rank in that coven. So the goddess Diana. Here's the next one. This is the mark that Harry received on the middle of his forehead. It is the satanic S, the lightning bolt. And where do they get this from? Luke 10:18, where it states, Jesus speaking said, I beheld Satan fall as lightning from heaven. Satan has grabbed onto that and said, that sounds really cool. We're going to use that for our symbol of our God, because he fell like lightning. And so they've been using that symbol for hundreds of years. It was introduced in the 1940s by the Nazi SS, Hitler's elite group, You wanted to find out what anybody knew, all you had to do was call them the Nazi SS, and it didn't make any difference what they tried to resist. They were masters of torture, masters of pain. It was introduced then in the 1970s by a rock and roll band called KISS. And they put it on the end of their name, KISS, and all the kids thought that was real cool, not realizing that it actually stood for Kings in Satan's Service. But this is the lightning bolt that was on Harry Potter's head. It's also interesting that it looked like in the 90s that the Church of Satan was going to go under, because Anton Szandor LaVey, the head of the Church of Satan in San Francisco, California, died of heart problems. And it looked like it was going to go under, but Carla LaVey, his oldest daughter, stepped forward and said, I'm going to take over where my father left off, and she revised the whole church. Their new symbol is that 5-pointed star with the 2 points up and a lightning bolt now down through the center. But yet this is the kind of seal, the kind of symbol that we are letting our children paint on their foreheads or tattoo themselves with. This is Satanic S. Here's the next one, and people have probably seen this before. This is called the Ankh. It's the Egyptian symbol, and it's a powerful symbol of reincarnation. You see, and if it was the cross, you see how the cross goes up from the bottom and it reaches the top. The Christian cross cuts off at the top because Jesus finished what he came to do. It was completed. However, in the Egyptian culture, when they are worshiping the sun god Ra, that loop at the top of that cross that goes around, it says that life doesn't end. You just continue over and over and over again. If you made mistakes in this life, you can be reborn over and over again in different people and come back as someone else and just continue to work until you reach that perfect state, until you reach that place of divinity. And so that's what this particular symbol represents. And it is the premise of reincarnation that you will see over and over and over again throughout the Harry Potter books. This is one of the main teachings that they are projecting, is that there is no death, you just continue over and over again. Now, to a child, if they don't have to worry about death, they don't have to worry about sin. They don't have to worry about doing things that mom and dad don't want them to do. They don't have to worry about messing up in school. They don't have to worry about not following what the church says. Because, see, they can just be reborn over and over and over again until they reach that perfect state. And the last one, everyone's seen this one. Everybody knows about the pyramid, the seal of the Illuminati, the all-seeing eye. But it was introduced in a book called Magic, M-A-G-I-C-K, by one of the most infamous Satanists of our history, and his name was Aleister Crowley. He wrote a book called Magic in Practice and Theory. And in this book, he said that the triangle represented the three basic elements of all universal magic and witchcraft, and that is earth, wind, and fire. And so each one of those points represent earth, wind, and fire. Now, after seeing those symbols, and after I told you about that they will put clues on the articles that they have to let the actual practitioners know what is in there, let's take a look at the Harry Potter books and see if there's any clues to them. Here's the first book. This was introduced in 1997 in the UK. And notice that it is Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. And where they get this from is the Philosopher's Stone is supposed to be a product of alchemy. Alchemy is an occult practice of trying to turn base metals into gold. And in the books, it talks about the Philosopher's Stone. And also, J.K. Rowling seems to think that Nicholas Flamel, which is the man that she describes in the Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone book, is the man who found this particular stone. Oddly enough, if you go to a book called The Occult in Practice and Theory, A History of Magic, it also mentions Nicholas Flamel. And it states that he was the man who found what was referred to as the Philosopher's Stone. And that this Philosopher's Stone was an actual stone that on the middle of that contained a potion. And it was called the Elixir of Life. And if you drink from this elixir of life, you can continue to live, as long as you continue to drink this elixir. Well, apparently he drank most all of it because he ended up dying. And in the Occult Encyclopedia, it will tell you that Nicholas Flamel lived to be the age of 665. However, in the Sorcerer's Stone, Joanne Kathleen Rowling has him living to be the age of 666. Coincidence? Now, look at that book for just a minute, concentrate on that, and see if you see any occult clues in there. Here's what we see. We see a train. It's called Hogwarts Express. The Hogwarts Express is the train that takes the children from the platform 9 3/4 to Hogwarts School. Then you see the character down in the right lower corner there, and that's Harry Potter wearing glasses, and then right behind him is a bus, and then that's the night sky, and those are just basic stars. So you really don't see a whole lot of clues in there. That white particular arrow that you see there is pointing over to his forehead and pointing out the lightning bolt scar. But we really don't see a lot of clues in that book. You need to know that Joanne Kathleen Rowling, when Scholastic Inc. went over to the UK and said, we want to make your new book, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, we want to bring it over to the United States. And she said, I will let you do that except under one condition, and that is that I have 100% say-so in everything that is done to the book. And they agreed. So now remember that Joanne Kathleen Rowling, the author of this, who also claims that she is not a witch, who also states that she does not believe in witchcraft, she does not condone witchcraft, she does not promote witchcraft, and she very, very rarely has an understanding of what witchcraft is. But she's writing books on it. Contradiction. She stated that she wanted 100% say-so in everything that was done to the book. And so remember that everything, including the cover, Joanne Kathleen Rowling, the non-witch, has something to say about it. So now, let's look at the cover as it was introduced in 1999 over in the U.S. Notice, first of all, that the whole title has changed. It's no longer Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. It's now Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. And let's look at the word sorcery. Sorcery comes from the Greek word pharma, which is where we get pharmakeia. And that's where we get pharmaceutical. And that means drugs. And in witchcraft, it's gratification or witchcraft through the use of drugs or potions. So now you have a sorcerer, not a philosopher. And notice it's Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. And here, let's take a look at, see if there's any clues there, because there's a lot. Here's Harry. He's riding on a broomstick, and he's going underneath an arch. Look at the very top of that arch, and on each side of the word Sorcerer's Stone, very clearly there, you see triangles. He's riding under the arch. He's wearing a red cape, and that's the red cape. It's a cape of invisibility that was given to him by his parents, and that cape, when he puts it on, makes him invisible to the naked eye, and that's how he can get around. He's wearing the red cape, and then he's wearing a sweater that's yellow, and it has red stripes. That would not be important, except that most people think that in Satanism, the primary colors are black. Not true. The primary colors are yellow and red. You see, it's the color of fire. So, could that be coincidence? You notice that as he's riding on the broomstick, he's holding up his left hand. That in itself would not be significant, except that comes from the Jewish book of mysticism called the Kabbalah. And that's where we get the teaching that if you're born right-handed, you're destined to be a king, or someone very important, someone who's good, that will do good deeds. And if you were born left-handed, you are destined to become evil. You might even be a criminal or a murderer. And in Satanism, when you take the initiation, they say that Jesus Christ sits on the right hand of the Father, therefore Satan sits on the left. And so when you come into Satanism, you're saying that you're leaving the godly world behind, everything that is good and holy to the right, and you are crossing over to the left. And it's referred to as the left-hand path. This is clearly what is being symbolized here with him holding up his left hand. Remember, they don't do anything by coincidence. Down in the bottom corner there, you see in that castle, underneath that's Hogwarts, and you see in that chamber there is a three-headed demon dog named Fluffy. That's his name in the book. And I want to tell you, this is not the kind of dog like Fido that you want to jump up in your lap and lick you. This dog will eat you. This is actually a mythological creature called Cerberus. It is the three-headed hound of hell that guards the river Styx. S-T-Y-X, just like the band. So here's the demon dog down in the corner there. Notice that Harry has two lenses on his glasses. One is clear, the other one is red. Notice down in the left-hand corner is a unicorn. Now, we know that there were unicorns in biblical times because they are mentioned in the Old Testament twice. The actual unicorn is mentioned twice. However, in the occult, the unicorn is looked on as being a symbol of enlightenment. If you'll look on that pole, and if you look close enough, you can make faces out on those poles underneath that arch where Harry is writing. Clearly, there are clues on the first book. And Harry begins to go to this school, and he begins to go to all these different classes, and he learns how to ride on a broomstick. He learns how to cast spells and make potions. And then he has his confrontation with Lord Voldemort. You see, everything that they tell him not to do, Harry does it anyway. The Dursleys, despite whether or not they are his, bad to him, are his parental guidance. That's his authority, parental authority. And so everything that the Dursleys tell him, he does just the opposite. He disrespects authority. Harry goes to this school of witchcraft and wizardry and places himself under their authority. But he rejects everything that they tell him. Everything that they tell him to do, he does just the opposite. And so he goes into this forbidden forest when he's told not to go in there, and he comes upon a slain unicorn. And there is a dark figure leaning over that unicorn. And as Harry gets closer and closer, he sees Lord Voldemort, who's described as being torn down because of so many curses that he's projected out. And it says that every time that a wizard projects a curse out, or a hex, that they grow weak, and they grow different in their appearance. And it's described that Voldemort is now weak and something less than a man, and so horrible you can't even look upon him. And so Harry walks up on Voldemort and sees that he is drinking the blood of that unicorn. He does that because that's the way that he stays alive. How many know that there's life force in blood? Don't believe it? All you got to do is slit your wrist. I mean, you don't have to have a heart attack or anything else. Blood runs out, you're done. Just a medical fact. It is the blood of Jesus Christ our Lord, when he died on that cross, that gives us remission of sins. It is the blood that overcomes death. Vampires have known that for hundreds of years also. The people that practice vampirism. The people who practice Satanism and Druidism also have blood rituals to where they actually drink the blood of the victim. There is several native Indian tribes that their old customs taught them that when you kill a deer or an elk, you drink its blood, and then you get the attributes of the powers of that particular animal that you just killed. It becomes a part of you. The same thing. When they drink the blood of the victim now becomes a part of them, and they're drinking in their life force. So this is exactly what Voldemort's doing. At any point, Harry discovers the Sorcerer's Stone. He destroys the Sorcerer's Stone after going through mazes of monsters and dragons and Fluffy and all that. And he finally destroys the Sorcerer's Stone, and Lord Voldemort is defeated, but he's still alive, and he goes off to live to fight again, and Harry survives Voldemort's plans to kill him. Let's go to the second book. The second book to be released is called Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. You don't have to go very far to see the occult clues on that. Harry is clearly wearing the red cape again, and that red and yellow tinted bird that he's holding on to is a mythological creature, a powerful symbol of reincarnation called the phoenix. Everybody's heard of the phoenix, the bird that went into the fire, and from the ashes a new bird arises. And they're also now teaching that in the New Age movement. You know, they say that the Christians are the ones that are the problems on the presenting all the problems on the earth, and once we're wiped off and gone, then the new bird can arise, and it's called the phoenix. So, look at the bird, and then you begin to look at the words written on the back of that wall, and the book describes that those words are written in blood. Throughout the Harry Potter books, not only is there the teaching of reincarnation, you will also find serpents throughout each and every one of the books. What has the serpent always been a symbol of? Satan. That's how he appeared in the Garden of Eden. Clearly, if you look at that pole, you'll see a huge snake wrapped around that pole. And the eye, you see the head, you see the eye, and then the tail is red-tipped.